Hello everyone, welcome back to the workshop. My name is Ryan and today I'll be forging some basic J-hooks. Going back about a year ago, this is where I started my journey, forging basic J-hooks. Just essentially a little, best way to call it, little curly cue at the end of the hook. You bend it around the horn of the anvil and just flatten the tip. It's quite simple. It's a great learning exercise, at least I like to believe so. And yeah, hopefully it's quite a fun video to watch as well. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a blacksmithing anvil just yet, although I do have a couple alternatives which might be useful to other people that might be watching this if they want to start getting into this sort of metal fabrication. I intend to do majority of my fabrication at nighttime, so unfortunately there are some downsides to that, but when you work full time, that's really the only free time you get. I just wanted to record this while the sun is still up and I'm still setting up the workshop. As you can see here, I have my grandfather's old workbench. In preparation, all I've really done is use the old wire wheel, just get rid of any silicon and any sort of marks, and use that penetrol to give it a nice clear coat. I have finally mounted my grandfather's vise to the workbench as well. Now, it was living over here previously, and when I was trying to mount the blacksmithing vise to the bench, I won't lie, I had a couple of very rough attempts. One was sitting way too far forward, one was sitting too far back, the leg was kicking up. The last attempt, I'm quite happy with. It's sitting right between these legs here. There's more than a few holes covering the workbench currently, but I'll get around and fix that when I can finally buy a welder. I do have video of installing this blacksmithing vise to the bench, a video of moving the bench. It's not very good. It's not very good. Everything is overblown. I've got no idea why the settings were like that. I'm hoping that I fixed the settings, but I'm still getting used to it. These are the tools that I'll be using today. So this hammer here, all I've really done to it is use the file to make sure the edges are nice and round so I don't leave any dent on my material. This hammer here I picked up at a secondhand store, and all I've done is I've annealed it. I've used a mixture of a grinder and a file to round off the surfaces and to create one flat edge and one curved edge. And then also created a new handle for it, or bought a new handle for it, I should say. I'll be using the 6mm mild steel round to create our hooks today. These tongs, they were given to me as a Imager Secret Santa gift, and they're absolutely amazing. I've only had a chance to use them a couple of times, but not in my forge. So it'll be very interesting to see how they go. And just some pliers, just for twisting some metal. I'd rather have vice grips, but I don't know where they are. Now, safety is really important to me, so obviously I have my safety glasses, my hearing protection, my gloves. I do have some rigger gloves here as well if these are a bit too cumbersome. Now, they may not be the best gloves in the world, but I want to avoid burns. I've burnt myself numerous times in the past. I definitely do not want that happening again. My forge isn't anything fancy, to be honest. I didn't design this burner. It was given to me by one of the blacksmiths at the men's shed. All I've really done is add on this little lid here to reduce oxygen flow. You have a secondary restrictor valve here, a little bit of throttle. Let's just say don't have any steel in the forge, but I don't want to turn it off. All I have to do is flick this up here, and that slows it down. And then all the way down here, of course, you have the gas bottle. I try and keep it as far away as I can from the forge for obvious reasons. Now, if I do want to, I can take this plate off and actually move this piece of fire brick. What that allows me to do is put an extra long piece of material all the way through the forge and intentionally heat up the center. Now, I don't need that today, and my forge does work better when it has this extra back pressure. Inside the forge itself is pretty simple. You have some doors on a little pieces of angle iron, and inside is just 100% clay. I do need to install some ceramic wool into the interior of this one or another forge in the near future. Apparently, when this is running at max temperature, aka forge welding temps, it tends to have a overheating problem. And hopefully the KO wool will fix that. So some things I'd like to make sure of is, one, I have my quenching bucket down here if I burn myself. I have my fire extinguishers out, and this vent is open. I've had a problem in the past with another forge where I've forgotten to actually open the air intake, and when I've gone to light the forge, just had this quite a decent sized fireball come out. So I want to make sure there's no fireballs. Okay, let's finally light up this forge. So I'm going to turn the GoPro on. That way it captures the footage of the flame lighting. Now all I'm going to do to light this is use the slider here to light it. It's honestly one of the best tools for the job. That way I can always just reach around, light her up, and I am not completely safe, but I'm safe. All right, turn it on, open up the valve, and reach around from the back. And that is a beautiful flame. I was expecting blue. I am quite pleasantly surprised it's actually coming out red. Normally my forge, when it lights up, it is, well, it comes out as blue flame transferring to red, but that's a very, very good sign. Okay, so it's a little bit hard to see here, and the forge is still getting up to temperature, but there's some little bit of flame escaping that forge. Now that can be a little bit dangerous. This is where I've actually gotten burnt previously, and the injury is still healing over. That's why I haven't released any videos recently. And as you can see how far that flame is coming out, that's extremely hot, and the forge isn't up to temperature yet. We're going to start by scoring off the end of the stock. What this will do is will allow us to create a nice taper that will eventually run down to a point. Once we get the point down to our desired size, we're going to start rotating the stock. This will take down the sharp corners and allow us to create a nice transition from our round steel all the way down to the tip. To create the little curlicue at the end of our workpiece, all we're going to do is place it over the edge of the anvil and start hitting it in a downward direction. Hopefully this will create a nice little bend in our workpiece. To pull the tip towards us, all we need to do is rotate it around, and then we start hitting it in the required direction. That might be down, that might be towards us. It all depends on where your curlicue is at. You can see in this clip that I'm actually using the anvil to pull that tip a little bit closer to our workpiece and make a little bit of a tighter bend. As I was planning to add some twists in the middle of our stock, all we have to do is start squaring off each of the faces. This will allow nice sharp surfaces to define these twists and really make them pop. Before we start adding in the little bend into the J-hook, what we're going to quench the tip. This will help to protect the tip as we're bending it around the horn or the edge of the anvil. Having a horn does make life a lot easier, but in this case I do not. So what I'm going to do in the next clip or two, I'm going to use a pipe just to help refine that curve. To create the twist within our stock, we're going to clamp down on the required area, grab the pliers, and just start twisting. Depending on the way that you twist, you will get different patterns, as you'll see later. I'd rather use the vice grips that you can see in the lower right corner, but unfortunately they weren't working properly. To make something a little bit different, I'm going to attempt to make a reverse twist. Essentially what this means, I'm going to twist the material the opposite direction. This will undo some of the previous twist, while also twisting the rest of the material the opposite direction, creating quite a nice pattern. Since we want our hooks to be a little bit more practical, we're going to flatten out the tip, essentially allowing us a nice flat area for us to drill out and create a nice secure point for us to pop a screw into, allowing us to hang this off a wall or anything else that we like. As a general rule of thumb, we always assume that any piece of metal in the workshop is hot. I've made that mistake personally many times, or I've forgotten. Now I know the steel here is wet and I've just quenched it in my bucket so it is safe. Now what we need to do is come along and actually make sure our piece is straight. So we can already see how there's a little bend in this one. There's a couple little errors that I can see. So what we can do is use various pliers, tongs, jigs, vices, whatever we want to straighten this out. Now that all of our pieces are nice and straight, what we can do is just bring them back over to the forge. And this is still hot. You can still see a little bit of the glow. Just throw them in. And of course I missed half of them. So I'll just grab my tongs and put them in. This is what I like to call blacksmith goop. Essentially it's beeswax, linseed oil, and turpentine. Funny enough though, this is actually where a lot of blacksmiths get burnt. They pop in material that's a bit too hot, and when they go to pick it up, they don't realize and it burns them. Now this can be avoided. I'm just going to use my tongs or some pliers, or hell, even other pieces of steel. So what we're looking for is when we put our material in, is it starts to smoke. Definitely not light on fire. That can happen. That is why we have a bucket and other tools that can just chuck this in and not worry about it. So let's have a look. Oh, that's perfect temperature. Now, other people do use other finishes. This is the only recipe that I have. It doesn't smell the best, but that is an absolutely perfect reaction. But I do need a bigger container. All right, before I knock this over, I'm going to put this back on the bench. All we need to do now is use our sacrificial brush just to brush everything on. Now, I don't need it to soak, but just for the convenience of this video, I'm just letting it all soak, get nice and shiny. Let's grab our pliers and grab them out one by one. Now, a lot of people do get burnt during this process. Just people thinking, oh, it's not as hot as they thought it was, or yeah, just people not thinking. And I am guilty of that too. I do have to admit, I really am guilty. All right, nice and goopy, nothing left inside. Let's close it back up. Gonna put our brush straight back inside, close it up and put it aside because I know it's hot. Now, all we need to do is brush off the rest of this excess goop. So here we are with our 6 brand new hooks. That's it, I'm pretty happy with them. They do need a lot of improvement. I need a lot of improvement, but that's all part of the learning journey. If you don't want them to be purely decorative, what you can do is use a center punch, punch a hole, and use a drill to drill out this section here. This allows you to screw them up to a wall and hang anything up you like. I do have to admit I am getting a little bit hook crazy. I've created a few. I've lost count how many I've actually created this weekend. Oh, goodness me. One of my favorites though has to be these reverse twists. I love how they look, honestly do. I'll have to find a way to incorporate these into bigger projects. I'm finally done for the night. It's been a long night. The forge is finally cooling down. I've put away all my tooling. I've made a few J-hooks. Yeah, I'm going a little bit J-hook crazy. I've probably made, I don't know, 12, 20. I'm not sure. I probably need to go through and cut them. I've had enough of making them. I have. I want to try making some leaves again. Last time I made some, it was with Peter, and they were a lot of fun, but I'd love to try and incorporate it into an actual project. Instead of trying to making leaves or hooks, just for the sake of that, I want to make it into a bigger project. So what I'm thinking is maybe a fireplace poker using 10mm mild steel. Nice little leaf at the end, curled around the actual 10mm bar, and then at the end actually have the fire poker. I don't know if I explained that quite correctly. It's something that I do have problems with, is explaining things, but that's me. If any of you can think of any fun projects for me to do, fun beginner projects, I always stress that beginner. I'm not too sure how it would go doing something a bit more advanced, because I'm pretty much still at the beginner stage, and I will be for quite a while. I do know that I have a long way to go with my hammering technique, my forging technique and everything, but feedback is always appreciated. At the end of the day, this is what the series is about. It's me just learning, exploring and experimenting with different techniques, different ideas, and finding what suits me. You know, what might suit me may not suit someone else, and that's completely fair. Or, you know, it could be the other way around, but I'm always open to suggestions. Hopefully you've enjoyed tonight's video and you'll tune in next time. Please feel free to like, subscribe, comments, and follow me on my other social media channels. It'd be great hearing from some of you. On that note, have a wonderful day.